Surprise bill? Need fast funds? CashNet USA can help. When you need money fast, be the hero.
Apply in minutes at cashnetusa.com and get a fast decision. All loans subject to lender approval. Speed of funding is subject to verifications and your bank's processing times.
Pandora makes it easy for you to find your favorite music. Discover new artists and genres by selecting any song or album, and we'll make you a personalized station for free. Download on the Apple App Store or Google Play and enjoy the soundtrack to your life.
Content warning for discussions of spiritual abuse. Someplace underneath.
You know, I put on my list because I want like a husband someday, a partner, someone I can go have fun and travel with.
Yeah.
And the first thing I wrote, kindness.
Good.
Just a kind person. You know, if somebody falls on the street, they'd pick them up.
Yeah. And that's different from being nice. And
Yeah.
I think that we don't maybe always differentiate between those two. Nice is sort of to me, a fake facade where you're it's like the trope of the nice guy, when the nice guy is a lot of times a piece of huge shit. He's like, the nice guy is always finished last. And like, what you're describing
isn't nice. It isn't good.
It's not good.
Or like what you say to a girl when you don't know anything about her personality. It's like, she's so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if somebody would call me nice, I would feel very insulted and
You're
kind of
like,
bad
"Bitch."
about myself. But like, I need to go figure out why they just called me that, because
I need to go do a crime real quick.
something. I need to, I don't know, update my financial portfolio and go to take a class. Do I need to have philosophy? Why am I nice?
Why am I nice? God, speaking of finances and like LDS and finances, I literally did my taxes the other day and I was like, I need to figure this out and how to be more of a bitch and like have all the pennies lined up and every little scrupulous piece of paper and just argue and be like, nuh-uh. Fuck you, nuh-uh, because like I just
bad at that.
was owing money that I was like, what? No? Why? What? No way.
I'm so bad at it. I wish you the best journey of that. It's the hardest thing to do. And as women, we're not taught to fight for that stuff.
No.
And we're not taught to learn about it, understand it, or have the confidence to argue it, because sometimes people argue that stuff and they don't. Like, dudes sometimes just... they don't know what they're talking about, but they're so confident that they're right that sometimes it works.
Sometimes it works. I was in the bathroom thinking about all the projects I was on where I showed up being very nice. And then my male co-star would come on and just be kind of an asshole. And then he would continue to get work. And I'm like, he made everyone uncomfortable. He kept talking over the director. Like, why is he getting asked back?
It's patriarchy.
Fuck that. We need to be more scrupulous with our finances, argue everything down.
Don't be nice.
Nice is not a compliment.
But kindness is a compliment. Because I feel as though there's something about kindness that is more intrinsic. It's like it's more genuine to me. Like a kindness comes from not a place where you're immediately trying to get gratification from somebody, but like it comes from inside of your soul, whatever you want to call it.
You're helping someone that can't help you. Because you want the world to be a better place.
Totally.
It's kindness.
Like you're not expecting a transaction from something. Totally. And I think that's a great thing to look for in a guy, you know?
Or a person. Do you think they were kind in Connections?
Yeah. Yeah, they were really kind. The whole concept of Connections is so crazy, but man, we could talk for days and days about Connections. It's really not that different from general LDS doctrine, and it's certainly not different than their therapeutic community, but they just kind of like raise the temperature a little bit. But it's that really disturbing, I don't want to call it Orwellian because it's so overused at this point, but where they're saying, we're showing you how much we love you by forcing you to stand outside in the sun for 12 hours. This is what love looks like. This is what kindness is, or what this is what I'm sure you've seen, and we've talked about the clip of Ruby Franke saying, if you love your children, if they were on fire, you beat the fire out of them. You don't just allow them to burn. And they're using that as an example as to why they're torturing their children, because they're showing them love. And that is so, so dark. But it's not that far off from other stuff in that world. Well, yeah. I mean, there's abuse in other ways connected to this, that it's connected to the church. I'm not saying that to be a dick. I'm just saying there's a pretty clear line of how they got to that.
Yeah, there's got to be some scientific papers. And let me know, write in someplaceunderneath@gmail.com if there's some scientific connection with growing up religious and winding up in an abusive relationship.
I mean, I'm sure there's tons of papers about that, because I from what I've heard people speak on who are more, who are smarter than I am, basically when you're taught not to question, and when you're taught that suffering is love and is goodness, why wouldn't you take that from a partner? Why wouldn't you accept that? That's how you're a good person.
That's what it is. And like having kids back to back, we don't even do that with dogs. Mm-mm. If you breed dogs back to back, that's considered animal abuse. And yet if a woman does it, she's higher to God.
Yeah. And that's a tough road too to look at, where if some women want to be doing that, do they understand the gravity of what they're doing? And I'm not saying they don't, but I think some women don't really fully understand, because they've been withheld from education and from choices. And so they think they're doing the right thing by like destroying their body, bringing these babies into the world.
Your teeth fall out.
And then is that really informed decision making? And I don't think it is, but that's just me. And I'm making a big generalization too, of course. But yeah, generally, no sane doctor would recommend that you get pregnant 3 months after you give birth. Like, that's crazy. But it happens 6 months out, another baby's coming in. So yeah, we left last week. Welcome to Someplace Underneath. I'm Natalie Jean.
I'm Amber Nelson.
Last week we left off talking a little bit about the influencer world and how the image of those influencer families, while yes, they are abusive and really hurting these children, they're also manipulating culture in a lot of ways that is really subliminal. And so many of those family vloggers that we see are LDS, and they're sending a certain message that they might not even fully understand they're sending through the church, and that the church might be helping that along a little bit, because more members means more money. So we have this world that is influencing the greater outside secular world. And inside of that, we met Jody Hildebrandt, who is the creator of the now defunct Connections.
But still on Instagram, though.
Still on Instagram. You can go look at it. So we saw this weird thing, and you might see this whole situation, the arrest, the abuse, as this weird little niche, like what a weird little lone wolf situation. And so this has nothing to do with the bigger picture, but Connections is part of this weird world. And it's almost like when we saw Connections through family vlogging, it was like looking through a keyhole at a much bigger space that Connections lives inside of. It's sort of sitting in the front of this market that is somehow both a cottage market and affecting geopolitical landscapes for all of us. So this little niche company called Connections, where Jody was taking in millions of dollars. It was still technically a tiny company.
Because if you love your kids, you'll push them in a cactus.
Yes. And also if you love your wife, you'll, remove yourself from the family and give this woman $100,000 a month or whatever to fix you. So Connections is a part of this bigger landscape that maybe we're not seeing in the family vlogging world, but is appearing in other ways through this sort of seeping into secular culture without us really seeing it happening. So we've been discussing questionable therapeutic practices in the church. We've been discussing how they have a money surplus rivaling Amazon. We've been discussing the infiltration into modern social media spheres. As this trifecta of doom coagulates, all of these little tentacles start sprouting out from it. And within these little tentacles exists a wellness community. because in the world of the LDS Church, because of their education, because of people going through and getting doctorates within their colleges, these Satan-fearing, accredited, moneyed members are sprouting out. These little tentacles are reaching out, and there is a robust wellness industry inside of here that kind of feels like they're doing the opposite of that. I don't know what the opposite of wellness is in a mental institution.
I remember falling down a wellness rabbit hole in the COVID lockdown because I was like, oh, I don't want to go to the hospital. That's reserved for people that are truly sick. So like, how do I make myself the best I can be? And I was like, oh, I'll follow these women. They have beige looking accounts and like pretty fonts. And then they were, come to find out, religious nut jobs, which I only found out because I would log on to Twitter and then these crazy dudes talking about skull shapes and IQ were on my page. And I was like, wait, they follow her?
It always goes back to racism. Doesn't it? At the end of the day, it's always about racism.
That's so insidious because you want to feel as good as possible and put the best things you can inside yourself and like love the sun and move around as you can. And to have like nasty people in there. Yeah.
And by far, I should say the LDS Church does not hold a monopoly on that kind of dangerous wellness community. There's a lot of them out there.
Yeah.
But I think what's maybe a little specific to the LDS community is a lot of the problems these people are facing are created by the wellness community, and then they bring the solution in. And that does happen outside of it, but it's so the problems that some people are facing are so based on Latter-day Saint doctrine that it is the church creating the problem and the solution. So the wellness community that is the closest to the LDS Church is sort of, how do I say this? It's making people crazier, I think, a little bit.
Yeah, because you're not meant to live in these restrictions. And they have all these like crazy stipulants. Like, did you get your 10,000 steps in today? How am I, as a working American, supposed to get my 10,000 steps in and eat my fiber and my protein? Yeah, you start stressing out.
And did you think about sex today? You better not.
Better not.
So that's this whole other level on top of even those kind of things, right? With the LDS community. So I would imagine it's tough to find healing and health when the core of your belief system and the discussions you have every day with your community involve being chucked into outer darkness for thought crimes on top of awaiting the final days of the planet. So those things are at the top of everyone's mind in the church who are deeply, and especially in like the Utah, Idaho, Arizona, belt there. But on top of that, they're also trying to find mental health healing. And it's just, it seems like it's a futile kind of pursuit.
How am I supposed to be mentally at peace when the horns of Jericho might ring at any moment?
I don't know. I guess you just have to start embracing it. Like I do think that there is a percentage of those people inside and outside of the LDS Church who are awaiting the final days, like with bated breath, because all their haters are going to get smited. I feel like they're very excited about that.
Oh my God. What if the horns of Jericho just sounded like a middle school band? Like, like, what's that? Like frog dying over there.
That's what all you sinners get. I mean, you think you're going to get some kind of fantastic Outcast type band playing? No, you're going to get
God's back.
Ding. God's here.
Hey guys.
Hey.
I returned.
You guys could have masturbated this whole time. I just wanted to let you know.
God,
this is not,
it sucks down here.
It's really fucking garbage. What did you guys do? So, yeah, this is the wellness community that exists inside of this strange landscape of Utah. And it's here I want to introduce to you, or if you already know of this group, you already know where this is heading. But I want to introduce you to a now shuttered company that focused on conventions and symposiums, kind of. A company called Eternalcore.
Ooh, they sound like they do a good ab workout.
No, there's no. Actually, there might be some athletics in there. You're right. There might be some athletics. So, Eternalcore, guys.
All right, look at this picture. Oh,
so,
this guy looks familiar. Tim Ballard.
Yeah, you're going to know a few of these faces. Do you see another blonde woman in there? that you might recognize the name
There
of?
she is. There's Jody Hildebrandt.
Yeah.
Tim Ballard looks attractive in this photo. No.
Oh, no, Amber. No. Also, he doesn't look like that anymore, at least.
No,
Okay,
the alcohol got to him.
I think just all of the horrible crimes he's committed probably made his skin worse. But so Eternalcore, it was a company that would do. Have you ever gone to a convention in general? You know, a convention.
Yeah.
This is one of those, but without any fun or joy or costumes or drinking or anything like that. So Eternalcore, we're looking at this flyer. I've pulled one up from, I want to say this is probably around 2021. If not, it's right around these years. And it says Eternalcore, and underneath it, the tagline is, "Are you getting by, but not getting better?"
Yeah, it's 2021. No, I'm not getting better. I'm freaking out.
Finding the music you love shouldn't be hard. That's why Pandora makes it easy to explore all your favorites and discover new artists and genres you'll love. Enjoy a personalized listening experience simply by selecting any song or album, and we'll make a station crafted just for you. Best of all, you can listen for free. Download Pandora on the Apple App Store or Google Play and start hearing the soundtrack to your life.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Yeah. So on this flyer, which is an advertisement for this convention that whatever year this was, around 2021, say it was in March, you'll see a bunch of photos, headshots of people who are going to be speakers at this conference. And it's what, I'm sure all of you understand what this is. Says 35 plus speakers. It's a 2-day thing. And in it, a bunch of people who are specialists in different fields connected to wellness are going to talk to you about your problems and about why you have problems and what they have to fix them and things you can buy and things you can practice, which inherently isn't bad, right? But I have to say it's difficult to put into words the amount of destruction, pain, and death that has been produced by some of the people at the top of this company, of this Eternalcore group.
Damn.
That sounds dramatic, but I think after we break down what's happened, you might agree with me. It's not that it's the organization itself, it's more what it represents. It's sort of a culmination of a lot of things coming together. And though this group, Eternalcore, is gone, many adjacent and similar to it still exist in the LDS world. Because if it's one thing that Latter-day Saints love, it's conferences and talks. Man, they do them constantly for a fee most of the time. But, they're business people. So Eternalcore is one of many other of these kind of things. There is this entire community of people who have these ways to help you feel better, ways to help you prepare, ways to make you stop having thoughts, these sort of things.
Ooh, I mean, if you just look at the flyer, it says suicide prevention, anxiety, depression, pornography, marriage, and addiction. Like if I was having problems, I'd be like, oh, I want to go to this.
Yes. And if you'll note, when you said those topics, which are discussed on the flyer, you see both pornography and addiction, which is something we've talked about in previous episodes. Their idea of sex addiction inherently is kind of a problem.
Right. But their form of addiction for sex is like, I look at porn once a year.
Right. So there's not a lot of nuance in there already to begin with. But yes, I understand what you're saying. Like if you were in this community and you saw this, you'd be like, I have problems. They can fix them. They'll help me. So even though this exact group doesn't exist, the reason we're talking about it is because the collection of people who were making up these Eternalcore conferences ended up causing a lot of damage. And this is, again, they love conferences. LDS people also love to have companies that don't fully have explanations attached to them. Sort of like ambiguous companies that make me think of Prestige Worldwide, where it's sort of like synergy.
Yeah.
Marketableness.
Strateginess.
Boats.
You're like, okay.
Triangulation.
Some vague. Just come in. You'll figure it out when you're in here. Just come on.
Yeah. So this is also connected to this idea of this wellness world. And one of the best examples of this I can make is one of the people who helped found Eternalcore, a key player in so many terrible things we're going to discuss over the next few weeks, a man named Ken Krogh. Here are some of the titles he has listed on LinkedIn.
Account executive, sales representative, marketing director of an LDS online publishing company, president of Candlelight Publishing, director of inside sales, COO of EVP marketing, CEO of something called Commanity, president of the American Association of Inside Sales Professionals. Wow, sounds like a good bullshitter to me.
So that is all descriptions of one gentleman. Again, his name's Ken Krogh. This is what a lot of these guys in this community have as titles, and a lot of them are self-made companies. And I understand a lot of the things you just said are titles that are jobs.
Yeah.
But how do I say that many of these sort of LDS professional companies feel like it feels like when you're playing Office as a kid?
Oh, it's like Daddy's Money or something.
Well, it's sort of just like, how does looking busy look? And you go like, da, 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 moving papers around. Then you go like, let's set up a meeting about that later. That's kind of what it feels like to me. And that is me being very, very judgmental.
No, that's fine. It's, again, being an asshole and getting ahead.
Yeah. And in this setting, they're moving around hundreds of thousands of dollars between one another. And again, it comes across to me as a level of naivety because they're so insular. The way that some mommy influencers may not realize they're sending these certain indoctrination messages. I don't know if these guys have ever worked with outside people that aren't Mormon and know what like a business is.
No, they wouldn't know what to do.
And I'm not trying to sound condescending. The reason I'm saying it is because of things we're going to talk about and things that people have learned about some of these organizations. So on its surface, Eternalcore was created to provide wellness opportunities to people. And those people don't necessarily have to be Mormon, but that is who is going to see these advertisements and want to go, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. This is being spread around in Mormon communities. This is not saying this is only for Mormons, but it's mostly Mormons who are going to be invited to them.
They're just like targeting towards their audience.
Yes.
And, you know, these conferences are a great way for the church to make money. So say if like I pay $200 a ticket, that's probably on the low end because again, these are like sort of boosted, sort of I'm the VP sales bullshit guy. And I'm like, oh, I got to go watch him. Here's $200. And say if I get 1,000 people, whatever the number that is, and then like just pay him a little bit of a speaking fee.
Yes.
And then just throw some chairs, some lawn chairs in a room. Boom.
Yeah, kind of.
Money.
Like, I know it sounds like this is me being completely shitty, but that's kind of what's happening, I think.
Yeah.
This is not exclusively Mormon, but like you just described, I think was a really good way to describe it. And Eternalcore was not founded by the aforementioned gentleman, Ken Krogh. He did help launch it, but Ken Krogh is going to keep appearing in a lot of the stories we talk about. He seems to be sort of what I would call like a hapless keystone to many crimes. But Ken, who is a graduate of both, guess what, University of Utah, and also took classes at BYU, he did help start up Eternalcore. And like so many of the other elements of the culture surrounding this church, Eternalcore is not church sanctioned. It doesn't say wellness for Mormons by Mormons. Flum. Remember, like FUBU. It's a joke about FUBU. If you're
for us, by us.
Yeah. It's not that. It's not saying that, but it is Mormon coded. It is mostly run by Mormons. And also, even if other people wanted to see it, they probably wouldn't see the flyer. That being said, there are non-LDS participants in these sort of events, and even people who are just there because they like make the round in wellness circuits, you know, like what are they called? Naturopaths?
Naturopaths, or like something adjacent.
Yeah. So on that flyer we were just talking about, there's 19 speakers listed. And so I've gone through each of their backgrounds, and the vast majority of them are members and high up in the church, and most of them went to University of Utah or BYU. But there are also some healers and stuff in there, some like homeopaths and stuff. And don't worry, there's at least one guy who calls himself a doctor without any credentials, because you need at least one of those for any sort of wellness retreat of any kind.
Isn't that illegal?
No, I mean, yeah, if you get caught like operating on somebody, but you can kind of just make it up.
Damn, I guess these are the times.
Yeah.
Just be like, yeah, I'm a doctor. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah. I mean, that kind of happens a lot in the wellness community.
Damn it, I should not have paid my taxes.
I know, right? Just say you're a church or something.
Yeah.
So this idea of these kind of conferences where they all get together, it's like this sort of, you're watching almost this, the dichotomy that we see in LDS people, which is they're simultaneously these sort of cerebral, folksy, crunchy people while practicing some elements of this strict, buttoned-up evangelicalism. It's this community that decries booze and weed and coffee, but also has a massive pill problem. It's a culture that wants to be isolated and not of the world, but also has universities attached to them. It's this discord that these two opposing feelings, these warring elements seem to just cause so many problems.
It's basically like, I don't like it when you do it, but when I do it, it's different.
It's sort of like this cognitive dissonance that is being held that I think makes people eventually start to lose their mind, because you're trying to hold impossible beliefs next to one another in your head at the same time.
It's like saying the sky isn't blue, but then you look up and you're like, that's green. And you just have to say it in your head that that's green over and over again.
But you know it's not.
But you know internally it's not.
Yeah. I think that is part of what we kind of see in these communities. So at the center of this Eternal Core is a man named Tom Harrison. He is becoming more of a myth than a person, though I would say the myth is more of a cautionary tale than a hero's journey. Tom, spelled Thom, is an unassuming looking man. He's reaching geriatric age as of now currently. One whose available photos online depict a sparkly-eyed harbinger of peace with a toothy welcoming grin. He's a graduate of, you guessed it, University of Utah, with an undergrad at BYU, of course, and he practiced as a psychotherapist for 30 plus years until very recently. He also taught at University of Utah, which I don't know. I don't feel qualified to make these statements, but I keep reaching back to why so many different people coming out of U of U are just, you know, I don't know what he taught there. I don't know if he taught bad. He might not have.
Witchcraft.
But they don't call it witchcraft because that's sort of like a matriarchal feminist idea. So they do witchcraft, but they call it something else.
Boycraft?
Boycraft. I don't like whatever that is. I don't want to be anywhere near whatever that is.
That's just like your dick, like you come
just
and you
like
make a
cum
spell.
rags are everywhere. I mean, I have done masturbation sigils, so I can't.
It is? You masturbate and think of something?
You have to make a sigil. It's a whole thing. They're powerful.
Really? Because
Yeah.
when the new moon happened, I masturbated and I cut off some of my pubes and I blew it in the moon. And
I love that.
I made a wish.
I think it's great.
And that's real.
I love that, dude. I'm not even joking. I think it's great. I am not against mystical thinking. I think the problem is when an institution tells you have to hold beliefs that are counterintuitive to your own wellness and happiness, and also helps you cause damage to other people. I think spiritual stuff should be very personal.
My wish was to kill all the children.
Oh, well.
Wow. Oh, God.
You know, that's on you, Amber. That's on you. You know, some lone wolves are going to be terrible, and sounds like you want to get the children. So back to Tom Harrison. So I've brought up some names. I swear to you, I'm limiting the number of names I'm bringing into this because it is extremely complicated. But there are names that we must hear, and because they're going to be repeated. So we have Ken Krogh and Tom Harrison are two important names that we're going to keep coming back to. Tom Harrison is the one who basically created Eternal Core. So I'm not just picking on this man randomly. His actions have caused at least partially a ripple effect that has resulted in death. And Tom, whose upbringing isn't openly available to the public, he is known, we know this much, is that he was a born and bred LDS member. He has been faithful to the church since he was born. And he is a man who I believe is in his 60s. I would say maybe mid-60s. That's my guess based on when he graduated from his doctorate and everything in the 70s. Now, I don't have his age confirmed, just so we're clear. But he had a long career. And while I don't think his life should be narrowed down and judged by a few events, what I think is most important to the greater world is a book that he dictated to an author whose name is John Pontius. Bear with me. You don't need to memorize all the names, but, it's important. Tom Harrison, again, psychotherapist, LDS member, highly regarded in the church, founded this thing called Eternalcore. He also helped this author named John Pontius write this book. And Tom Harrison is at the center of a lot of really messed up things. And when I bring up Eternalcore, it's because it's a good visual to understand how these people get together and how they end up causing this damage, because he draws them together. He brings them together and he draws them in because of very specific beliefs that he holds.
I'm scared.
So scared.
I'm like waiting for the bomb to go off.
So even after all that has happened in the last half a decade, he's still in good favor with the higher ups in the church. Within the last year, he was serving on the church missionary committee with focus on mental health of prospective missionaries. What that means is he is well respected in the higher up parts of the LDS church, and his job or his calling, because he's not getting paid because it's through the church, is that he meets with prospect missionaries to deem whether or not they're mentally stable enough to go on these missions.
So I'd say that's a good idea. Like if you've been born and raised in Utah and all of a sudden now it's like you're going to Brazil, you got to kind of like prep somebody.
I think you're right. However, what I know about Tom Harrison, it is alarming that he is being put in charge of this. So Tom's work with the author John Pontius, another LDS man, their work that they made together, this book, is not actually that out of the ordinary for the Latter-day Saints. A lot of Latter-day Saints members write novels or biographical-ish works about things adjacent to the LDS Church. A lot of them are authors. There may be a connection to the idea that they are supposed, from a young age, Mormons are supposed to document their lives. They're supposed to journal. They're supposed to keep records. And so I think there is this theory that because of that, that's why they become good vloggers. That's why they become authors all the time, because they're constantly writing and practicing, which, technically is good. Mm-hmm. Also, like we just mentioned with Ken Krogh, when you were listing off his credentials, there was 2 different book publishing companies named, and there are many, many LDS independent publishing companies because of all of the books that they write. And it also helps that they have the distribution branch, Deseret Books. John Pontius had only written 4 or 5 books that I could find. He passed away in 2012. I say only 4 or 5 because many of these sort of independent LDS authors write like 20, 30 books.
Whoa.
Are they good? It's the eye of the beholder.
Is it like a paperback, like how I went to the bathroom today? Well, anybody can write a book.
I would say they're a lot more dramatic than that typically. Critically, if you were analyzing them like for grading them in school, probably not really good. But I'll also say it's really hard to write a book.
That's right.
I'd say use these books as a reminder that you're more than qualified to go after that project you've dreamt of.
Hell yeah.
Write that book, finish that screenplay. Anybody can do it.
Anybody can do it. And the assholes get ahead. Fuck them. You do it.
Pandora makes it easy for you to find your favorite music. Discover new artists and genres by selecting any song or album, and we'll make you a personalized station for free. Download on the Apple App Store or Google Play and enjoy the soundtrack to your life.
Why are more women than ever choosing Natural Cycles? The hormone-free, side-effect-free way to take control of your fertility. Natural Cycles is a birth control app that uses your temperature to find your fertile window. It is more than a basic cycle tracking app. Natural Cycles is the only FDA-cleared and CE-marked birth control app and has helped millions prevent and plan for pregnancy naturally. Save 15% when you sign up today with code RADIO15. Learn more at naturalcycles.com.
Yeah. So they write a lot of books. Presumably at one point in the 2010s or the aughts, Tom approached John Pontius one day. Now, what occurred after that is still being debated. Tom, who is alive and well and very high up in the church, for his part, was later forced into writing a public letter stating that the contents of the book they wrote together was purely fiction, that it didn't happen. So please stop killing people.
Ooh.
But it's been said that in private, that's not his tune, let's say.
What is this book people are killing each other over?
So, okay, in 2012, John Pontius released a book called Visions of Glory. According to the author, he got this book from it was transcribed to him, and it was true real-life premonitions from a man using the pseudonym Spencer.
Oh, Spencer is our guide?
Yeah, Spencer's our guide. Spencer,
he's going to tell me how to wear my choker necklace properly?
Yeah, no, you wish he was that cool. So we find out through a series of unfortunate events that Spencer is actually the respected psychotherapist Tom Harrison, who again is the founder of Eternalcore, among other things. So what is this book, Visions of Glory? Here's a brief synopsis of what it's about. This is taken from Fair Latter-day Saints.
Visions of Glory is written by John Pontius and recounts several visions and spiritual manifestations. Their recipient is an anonymous informant called Spencer in the book. It includes an account of visions of the spirit world, a series of vignettes of apocalyptic last-day scenarios, and describes Spencer's foretold role in preparing the world for the second coming of Christ. It concludes with an appendix containing other visions, which may provide parallels or points of comparison to Spencer's claims. Oh, so he's just like, the world's done. I'm Spencer. I got a gun. I'm hot. I got a big cock. Follow me. Get in my dune buggy, hot babes. Let's go.
It's not that far off. I have it if you want to read it.
Yeah.
So that sounds like a lot. But in the LDS world, this description of the book is not really that out of the ordinary. As you'll recall, the church is called the Latter-day Saints. This is in reference to them believing we're at the end of time. And because of that, they're very interested in the end days, about the coming of Christ, and about having premonitions, and something that we're going to talk about a lot in the next few episodes, near-death experiences. They're a huge part of this culture, and it makes you be sort of revered if you've had one. So Visions of Glory comes out in 2012. This is not even by far the first of this kind in recent history. There are many that have caused a lot of problems. But for example, there's a book called As a Thief in the Night that came out beforehand by this author named Roger K. Young. It covers end time prophecies, and it caused some issues. And we're going to come back and talk about it at one point. But something about Visions of Glory has broken people's brains. For a time, Visions of Glory was one of the best-selling books in Utah, and it might still be. It was like on par with Book of Mormon.
Whoa.
It's a lot. So people who are members who want to distance themselves from this community and this book and the things that people have done, they want to call it fringe. This is fringe belief systems. This is, this is the extremists on the edge.
But that's what people do when they get caught. Like when the Pizzagate guy was shooting the comet, whatever the
comet ping pong.
The ping pong, and people were like, "Oh, he's the fringe guy. He's just fringe." It was like, no, your people were outwardly saying you need to go protect the kids no matter what.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of that happening here too. You can call it fringe or not. You can go ahead and call it that. But multiple people in leadership at the church not only believe in Visions of Glory, but are closely tied to Tom Harrison, who is also high in the church. So saints who want to brush off these wellness communities and another community that is connected to Visions of Glory that we're going to talk about, the prepper community, as fringes and extremists, they're not really. They're actually what the people who run the church believe. They're directly talking to those people.
Oh, so they're just gaslighting us. They're just saying like, yeah, they're fringe. We're not really a part of it, but I'm sure they go to these conferences.
I think some people who want to say this isn't us. This isn't our church. They're not doing these things, right? They're not a part of this community. But I don't think they understand that their church is not fringe. Like, I don't think they understand that these things that are happening that have been in the mainstream news aren't fringe members. They are mainstream members. They're members, even if the extremist ones, the ones who did the killing and the kidnapping and stuff, might be really out there. They're standing side by side with leadership up until a point where they start committing crimes. And then the church goes like, oh, I don't know who these guys are. What? I said a little bit earlier that Tom Harrison had to publicly make a statement saying, hey, yes, I'm Spencer, and this was just a work of fiction. We know I didn't have prophecies. I don't believe any of these things. You shouldn't take it literally. But he's not saying that when he's talking to these like conferences and these groups, right? He said it so that he wouldn't get excommunicated from the mainstream church because they don't want to take the fall for him. But he does that thing where he goes like, yeah, wink. Yeah, it was just stuff I was making up, which is another thing that he has in common with Chad Daybell, the family murderer who is awaiting trial right now, who is in this community also.
So is it sort of like, I'm sorry I got caught. I'm not sorry. I really did it.
Yeah, it's Tom and a lot of these guys, I think, have a little bit of an issue with feeling like they don't know what's going on. And I think because they need to feel in control and feel like their church is correct, they cannot admit if something isn't making sense. So Tom Harrison, who has connected this group of wellness community people, who was also the person who transcribed his visions to John Pontius, is at the center of a lot of really bad things that have happened. And before we expand on how all these elements connect and are associated with crimes, including murder, I want to play some clips of both Tom Harrison and Ken Krogh, because both of those names are going to be really important to a lot of the stories we're telling in the future. And I just want you to get an idea of how they sound and what they believe. Because from the outside, both of these men look very meek and they're gentle. They talk gently. You're not looking at a Steve Bannon. You're not looking at a Hegseth. You're looking at these very calm, complacent, sort of like lambish looking men. But
they've got anger inside them.
Something. Maybe they do. Because what they're connected to are crimes against humanity. They're trafficking crimes. They're murder crimes. I'm not saying they did it with their hands, but they facilitated a lot of it. And at the very least, allegedly, they egged on certain things. And I know that's very vague, but we're going to be getting into a lot of deep territory in the next couple episodes.
Well, especially if I go to you. So I'm just trying to get all the names and people straight. So say I'm Tom Harrison and you're Ken Krogh. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, hey, I got a book. You can write, Ken Krogh.
Well, no, John Pontius is the author.
Fuck. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So there's John Pontius and
Tom Harrison
and Ken Krogh.
Yes.
And then John Pontius wrote the book.
Yes.
Tom Harrison is the one that was like, I'm Spencer.
He said, yeah, John Pontius, have I got a story for you? I had a near-death experience and I've had these premonitions.
Damn, okay.
But you need to call me Spencer so nobody knows it's me, Tom Harrison.
That's right. And Ken Krogh was like, I'll get you guys together in a conference.
Yes. Ken Krogh is what, all of those titles he has. He helps put together a lot of these groups. So he helped Tom Harrison put Eternalcore together. He knows all of these same guys, and these guys are in the room with a lot of our big politicians in this country.
And they're just saying, like, a dream told me?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Whoa. And people call me crazy when I said I had a dream.
You should be running the country, Amber.
I should say it louder for the people in the back.
For the people in the back. Let's have a convention. Let's put a convention together. We tell people how to live.
Please. I had a dream that Luigi Mangione didn't like me.
Oh,
I had a dream he didn't like me as a person. We all went out to eat, and I ordered an appetizer, and they all ordered entrees, and I put in money for my appetizer and tax and tip. And Luigi Mangione said, Amber, you got to pay. We all got to pay equally. And I was like, but I got an appetizer specifically so I didn't have to pay for all this. And he's like, no, we split the bill. And I was like, Luigi, I can only pay for what I can. And he got really mad at me.
I just think it's nice that innocent man got out of jail to have dinner with you. You know, he was freed because he didn't do it. Also, it's very funny that it seems like in the dream, are you representing the healthcare industry?
Oh my God, am I the CEO that's dying? No. But I did, as my crazy girl thing of the day, I did put his astrology. I found it on the internet and I synced it up to his and mine to see if we're compatible. And it said that we're not. So.
Well, there goes that one.
There goes that dream. Guess check him off the husband list.
Gotta just start over from scratch.
But I hope he's doing well.
He's doing as good as you can, I think, in that situation.
Yeah, I don't hate him. Just in my dream, he hated me. Guess put me in Congress.
Yeah.
I got dreams.
That was a premonition you had. So, I mean, that's kind of what some of these people are doing.
I mean, people think I'm crazy, but he's literally writing a book on it, and people are killing each other for that.
Yeah.
So I could say, like, I had a dream, Luigi Mangione, he made me put in for an entree, even though I had an appetizer, and like, that's like people being like, oh, Luigi, no, like it's a real thing. And like, I'm saying it as like, isn't this a crazy, silly dream?
So give me money.
Yeah.
Again, to drive home the point, this is not really very far from LDS stuff. It involves visions. It involves premonitions. It involves their bishops are supposed to be speaking directly with God. The prophet of the church is supposed to literally be like having a kiki with God all the time. Like the idea that they are prophets but just not in the church is not a far reach. It's not a far reach for somebody who is inside of this church to be like, I'm actually also a prophet, I'm pretty sure, because the argument is that's insane. Only that guy can talk to the God. That's the prophet.
Yeah, he had his dream. I like his dream better.
His dream is he's got fancier tie on.
Gosh, and if you want to have a dream and talk about it, who gives a shit? But like now you're asking for money, you got power, you got influence.
And it's also alluding that you understand what's going to happen and you need to do A, B, C, D, F. And usually those things involve paying money. But in other ways, sometimes it involves like sexual assault or making really bad personal decisions because this person is saying, I am having a prophecy. I saw the other side. If you don't do what I'm telling you, you're doomed. You're fucking doomed. So it's got a lot of consequences. I want to end this here because I'm very adamant. I'm very passionate about getting people to kind of understand these connections. Now, I want you to ruminate on these thoughts, this idea. Tom Harris and Ken Krogh are very important people in the middle of these stories. Obviously, if you listen to my husband's show, they just did a big old series about Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell and their connection to Visions of Glory. But just think about these. I'm gonna play some clips of these guys so you can hear what they have to say and how they think and what they sound like, because it's very much sounds very innocent. Well,
I'm Jesus. Jesus is coming back.
Hey guys. Hey, stop doing that.
You could have masturbated the whole time, right?
Yeah. You could have just. It was fine. I didn't care. It was really.
I made those genitals.
I made it feel good. Who do you think did that? It was me. Idiots.
You idiots.
Ken Krogh's meek and docile LDS speaking voice can lull you into a calm that is in direct conflict with what's coming out of his mouth at times. But in short clips like this, you can really hone in on how, in my opinion, truly bizarre and almost menacing his statements can come across.
I was asked to consult with the LDS Church about 5 years ago, again about 4 years ago. And I asked them, I said, what's your single biggest challenge? I was there for over 2.5 hours. And they said, without question, addiction. I got up to speak a few weeks later in San Francisco at the large trade show down there for Salesforce.com. I'd been the keynote speaker in many conferences all over the world. I'm on the stage. Took me 5 times longer to write my talk. And I started saying inappropriate things. And most of the people in the industry knew that Ken Krogh, a Mormon kid out of Utah, he doesn't usually talk that way. I knew I was in trouble. And I came home and talked to my dear wife, and And shortly after that, I went on some business trips and started realizing I was having temptations. I gained like 35 pounds. I started having uncontrollable temptations around pornography. And it was weird temptations, things you'd have as a teenager. I couldn't even slow it down. I knew I was in trouble.
Tom Harrison's verbal affectations could be considered comparable to Ken's. Here in this clip, Tom is discussing his beliefs around mental health treatment and why he has gathered, in his words, quote, like-minded thinkers, together at his convention, Eternalcore. I leave you to your own conclusions.
There isn't a normal.
Right.
But we project that there is. Pharmaceuticals project that there's a normal, that if you take this drug or you take this drug, it's going to have the same effect. That is not true. It's just not true, because all of us are different. All of our brains are different. All of our guts are a bit different. And we try and project this reality that is basically a lie. There is no normal.
Right.
And so anytime you put I am before something that has come externally, a diagnosis or something, you're really creating some major problems in your life. Don't buy it just because Western medicine or Eastern medicine or your spouse or someone else says you are. Don't buy that I am.
Right.
Move. The only I am you should connect to is the great I am.
Yeah.
What a better way than creating a community of like-minded thinkers so that when I do take in my last breath, I can see that what I learned and what I spent my lifetime learning is now moving on in a community of healers and helpers. It troubles me that God has been taken out of most mental health practices. If he made us, he can fix it.
Coming up next week. In 2014, Tom Harrison was forced to write an apology letter to the greater population of Utah for his assertions in the book Visions of Glory. Unfortunately, it seems as though the damage was not mitigated enough to prevent violence.
Hey, this is Jeff Lewis from Radio Andy. Live and uncensored, catch me talking with my friends about my latest obsessions, relationship issues, and bodily ailments. With that kind of drama that seems to follow me, you never know what's going to happen.
You can listen to Jeff Lewis live at home or anywhere you are. Download the SiriusXM app for over 425 channels of ad-free music, sports, entertainment, and more. Subscribe now and get 3 months free. Offer details apply.
Some say Odoo Business Management software is like fertilizer because of the way it promotes growth. Some say Odoo is like a magic beanstalk, scaling with you while being magically affordable. And some say Odoo's programs for manufacturing, accounting, and more are like building blocks for creating a custom software suite. But I say Odoo is all of it. Fertilizer magic beanstalk building blocks for business. Yeah, Odoo. Exactly what every business needs. Sign up at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.